Digital 410 Productions proudly presents the What's in Your Head podcast.
Digitized live from the ACT Computer Studios in Cape Coral, Florida, it's the What's in Your Head podcast with your hosts Gordon and Don Abernathy.
What's up, everybody? It's another episode of the What's in Your Head podcast. It's another Monday. I about said Tuesday because I did a very long podcast last night, and I'm worn out. But for those of you watching at home and streaming along on YouTube, you're like, well, who are the other guys? Why does it look like Hollywood Squares up in here? Well, that's because we have a huge announcement. But first, as always, join us from Las Vegas, Gordon Abernathy. Gordon, how are you doing tonight, sir?
You know what? I'm doing okay. Doing all right.
Getting good grades? Future so bright?
We'll see.
You got to wear shades?
Well, it is Vegas.
You study nuclear science. You love your... Never mind.
Yeah,
the 80s music. Joining us from the newly minted, yet to be published. We have the new episode up. We're just getting the ducks in a row. It's our friends Michael and Ron from the new podcast on the Digital 410 Network, the Tackle Your Best podcast. And it's funny how this came to be. I think 2 episodes ago, Gordon and I were talking about my fishing exploits or lack thereof. And Michael, for those of you who follow us on YouTube, you may have seen Michael in the last 2 videos. He's the guy floating around in the bright neon green Lifetime kayak. Michael and I have been texting back and forth, and he's been giving me some advice about fishing. I said, hey, man, have you ever thought about doing a fishing podcast? And I said no. I said, I've only been fishing for 4 months. I don't know enough about podcasts. I don't know anything about podcasts either, but I don't know enough about fishing unless I were to call it the I don't know how to fish podcast. And he said, well, I've been kind of thinking about it. I said, well, look, if you want to start a podcast, I would be happy to host it on our network. And I would love nothing more than to have another podcast on our network, but one that I have nothing to do with. And so that's the plan, with maybe the exception of making an appearance every once in a while, talk about fishing because, well, I'm down for the cause. But Michael, Ron, how are you guys doing tonight?
Doing all right.
Yeah, doing pretty good.
Now, Ron, you are down in South Florida, right? Damn near Everglades
I live out
area?
in Naples.
Oh, I thought you were further down. The way when I was listening to the podcast, you made it sound like you're like damn near in Everglades. So you're down in Naples?
Pretty much, actually. Yeah, I'm out in the estates, so I have a nice little piece of heaven out here, and
a little pond in the backyard, apparently.
Backyard pond that I get to fish in, but.
And you guys also have a little company that you've been working on called PB Baits, which is personal best baits, and you have a Facebook page people can follow you at PB Baits. Just run and search for that on Facebook. But I guess, Ron, maybe we'll start with you. Just give a little background. How long have you been fishing, and how long have you been wanting to do a podcast?
Well, I was raised here in Florida, so I've been fishing my whole life out here. You know, it's kind of hard not to when you have so much water around you. It's kind of gotten to I've always done freshwater and salt, more salt than anything. But the last couple of years I've been really diving deep into freshwater, and brought up the idea to Mike. I was like, why don't we just start our own bait company? Because I'm the gadget guy. I'm always at the store buying stuff, and I was like, well, let's cut out the middleman. Let's just do our own thing. So
yeah, it's funny. I made my first leader last night from a braided line, and I got this 20-pound Guggen fiber. The opposite of monocarbon. I always get tongue-tied on it. Fluorocarbon that I bought, which is like fishing with speaker wire. But I made some leaders with it last night, and went out last night. I caught with my lip hook on there, which I didn't get the chance to zero out the scale, but the lip hook was like 0.21, and once I put the bass on it was like 1.93. And then I caught another one 10 minutes later, did zero out, and that one was 2.23. And we went out again tonight, and Carrie caught one that was 2.30. So for the last 2 days, we've caught 3 bass well over 2 pounds. Well, 2 over 2 pounds, one just slightly under. And
actually, since you mentioned fishing line, and it's something I was always under the impression on, Don and I talked about it this weekend. Now, it's been forever since I fished, and I live in a desert that's quickly losing water. So
thanks, California.
Fishing on my future, but the test of a line, he says, seems to be different. The numbers mean different things between braided and monofilament or whatever. And I always thought it was the tensile strength to break said line.
Well, before you answer, to give background on this, if you guys watch the videos that I put up, 2 months ago I got a Guggen Squad half-ounce Hummer buzz bait, and 2 times now on my braided line I'm casting, and the line snaps. You know, it was like 15-pound test braided line. The damn thing snapped. Second time, it snapped like 5 feet out, and so I had enough line floating on the water, I was able to retrieve it. And of course, I called Michael. I'm like, what the? How is 15-pound test breaking on a half-ounce weight? He's like, well, you got the, you know, it's kind of like hitting your car. You know, you got speed. But then he says that he fishes with 60-pound braided, which is the same diameter as, you know, 12 to 15-pound, you know, monofilament. And so, how does that work? Why am I breaking 15-pound braided line with a half ounce weight on there? And is it apples and oranges, or is it completely different as far as between monofilament, the braid, etc.?
Okay. There's with line, it really depends on everything. So if you're using like top water baits and stuff like that, going straight braid, if you especially have props, can be a problem. So, you know, you're always going to want to have some kind of stiffness of a wire. You know, think about it. If you take a piece of braid and just drop it, it's kind of like going to soft serve down. It has no rigidity to it. So when you're making those casts, if you're using braid, sometimes you'll get your treble hooks locked up into your treble, your braid locked up into your treble hooks. So you want to use like leader wire in between it. But then you're going to ask yourself, like, okay, well, what am I using? If you're sinking a bait, then you want to use fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon sinks.
Yeah.
It's denser, it's clear, and it's invisible. It also has braid has no stretch, and mono is like a rubber band.
Yeah.
So if you're using mono and then you put that with a pole that's like, let's say, a medium or medium light, you have that very heavy whipping action.
Yeah.
So like Mike said, you have speed, you have the whip, and then you have that stretch. So you add those all together. Yeah, you look at your pole, and sometimes it will tell you what line to stay within. Now, I'm a power fisherman, so Mike's a finesse guy, so I use heavy line and a heavy pole usually. It's kind of weird for me to go to a medium or medium light, and I'm getting into it, but my theory is if I can't reel it in, I'm just ripping it out, you know.
Well, I'm currently fishing. Right now I have I got a Abu Garcia medium heavy with running fluorocarbon with an 8-to-1 Cast King bait caster, and then I have an El Cheapo $30 Walmart Berkeley amp saltwater with a running now 50-pound braid with a 20-pound leader that I just made with on a Cast King Valiant Eagle 5-to-1. And so it's working well now, but it's getting into this stuff. It's finding out that, you know, the little tricks. And like, you know, on your podcast that will premiere probably the first of this coming month, you know, Mike was talking about our trip out, which you guys can see on YouTube. We were out there. My Garmin Striker 4 was going nuts. It's just lighting up goldfish. We have it instead of the check marks. It makes little goldfish icons just like the crackers. This thing's lighting up. We're casting. We're fishing everything and not getting anything. And I tell Michael, hey, the water temperature is like 85. It's 7 feet deep. They're floating at 4 feet. And he said, well, I'm going to go wacky rig without a weight. And as soon as he started doing that, he started pulling them in. And like you were saying on your guys' premiere podcast, it's figuring it out, doing that detective work. It really makes it fun. Just like last night, trying different things and pulling in those 2-pounders, which the 2.30 is my current personal best. As Mike was saying on your podcast, which you guys can download through all the podcast apps as well as their website that will have linked through d-410.com. Carrie did catch a 6-pound bass on a freaking Ozark Trail worm.
Wow.
And I will never be able to beat that. I know.
Yeah, that thing was a monster. I'm not gonna lie.
I'll be honest with you. I've never been in a boat with a fish that big, with the exception of deep sea fishing when we were younger. We're on a big charter that like 38,000 people are on. You know, one of the big Florida tourist specials, and everybody's tying, you know, getting our line snagged off each other. Mm-hmm. And this thing's fighting us. It's spinning us in circles. The kayak's spinning, no anchor. We're free floating. And part of me in my mind said, is she going to pull up a fucking alligator? Because the tip's going down. We're spinning around it. And you guys were talking on your podcast, which you guys be sure to check out. The bad thing about shoreline fishing is usually catch it 3 feet off. There's no fight. 2 reels and it's in. I think it took her 4.5 minutes to get that thing in. And by the time
sometimes it could be beneficial to have no anchor. You know, that's less on your drag. You know, it's less tension on your line. You know, let it pull you, let it fight, let it wear it out.
And that's exactly. And sadly, it was at the end of the day, so the only video camera that I had going is my GoPro Hero 3, which is our underwater camera, which the resolution sucks, but I got a little bit of footage. Up the time we got that thing in the net, it was gone. It was wore out, and so was she. But we and luckily we had just gotten a scale. Ironically, like she had a conversation with a family member like 3 days before, like, you can't catch any big fish from a kayak in Cape Coral. Well, we did, so well justified. Shout out to you, Michael.
You're gonna come out here.
Well,
if you want to see big fish, there's my buddy just pulled a 9.2 out not so long ago out of the lake we were just showing you on that podcast.
Are you guys familiar with spearhead hooks?
No, actually, no.
I got them not last month, but the month before that in our mystery tackle box, and they sat in my tackle box for a while. They got a weird shape to them. They have what they call their patented V grip, but basically, you just got to Google it. Just Google spearhead EGW V grip hooks. They are perfect for Texas rig setups. We have yet to get a fish swallow on them, and every bite hookup we've gotten, that hook has gone through their top lip. Like the way they're shaped, they're patent pending. These things are awesome. Like, sadly, it's like the case where you go online to order some because you can't find them around here. It's like $5 a pack, $6 for shipping. It's like, why is the shipping got to be more than the damn item I'm buying? So even if you buy two, it's $10 for 2 packs and $6 shipping. It's like, son of a bitch. But check them out. You can order them through Walmart and they'll ship them to you for free. But I'm telling you, Michael, check out these spearhead hooks. They got a weird shape to them, but you'll dig them. They work great. And resetting your worm on them, once you pull that worm off, resetting is in no time flat. They're just the way they're shaped.
I've got a picture of them right here. They look so odd.
Yeah.
They're just they're curved so odd.
Yeah.
Ron, you'd have to really look at that to actually understand what he's talking about.
But if you look, see how the hook is like exactly perpendicular with the eye where you tie your line on?
Yep.
And so when you put your worm on, you put it through the eye ring. When you come around, and usually you're putting your finger, you're measuring it. I just go straight up with the hook and then let the worm go, and then I just pull back a little bit and set it in there. It's no time flat, weedless, perfect. And once again, we have yet to get. No one has swallowed these things yet, and they always, for some reason, that shape, the hookup is always on the top of the mouth. And I wish this was sponsored by Spearhead. It's not. I would love to get a pack of those fishing hooks. I'd give them out to everybody. What's up, Jim Scion? He's checking in on Facebook Live. So the other thing, you guys are talking about the meme, which is Carrie and I are talking about tonight. The irony of fishing is when you're fishing on the shore, you're casting out into the lake, and when you're on a boat, you're fishing to the shore, and that is like perfect.
Oh, it's very true, and we just find Mike was over at our house today, and that's what we were doing. Just like for the first half of our fishing, we were just casting out in the center, slow reeling in, and it's like, we just talked about this over the weekend. We need to be casting in the weeds. We need to be casting in the grass, I cast once right over the grass, and a lot of times when I'm bank fishing, if I can get to the other side, I'll cast right onto the shore and slowly pop that right in through the grass, bring it into the grass off the shoreline. And sure as shit, as soon as I did it, I had something hit it right off the grass. Didn't hook it, but pop right there, right in that grass line. We're talking 7 inches less. They're right there waiting.
Well, you guys should. I want you to repeat what you guys talked about in your podcast just shortly about the Florida summer bass, because from my reading, I'm like, oh, well, summertime, water's hot, oxygen levels, the fish are going to be deep. But what I learned from your podcast, which, by the way, I listened to your podcast on Saturday night, Sunday, I'm pulling in 2-pound fish. I'm just saying. So I don't know if it's from what I learned, but give the guys listening and following along at home what you're talking about by actually they're going to be in shallower water with higher current because of the grass and the oxygen levels and all that.
Well, it's a little bit of both. So you're going to have some fish that are going to be going out deep and suspending themselves. And it's really if they're traveling or if they have a home. But some of them, they'll get in that grass and you think like, okay, it's burning hot. It's 90, whatever degrees out. And you think that, shallower water would be just as hot, but they may be, but they're hiding in that grass shadow. And if there's a current on the top of the water, if it's making waves or just a current in general, that means there's oxygen at higher oxygen levels at the shallower points of the water. So they're going to stay there. They're going to, think about it yourself. Would you rather go deep and be or go be hot and breathe.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how they're
Yeah,
acting.
it's basically the lesser of two evils. They're basically going in and saying, what do I want? Do I want to be cool, or do I want to be able to breathe, just like you said? And them laying up in that grass line, they're just sitting there waiting for something to cross in front of them so that they can eat. They're very lazy. They're not really moving a whole lot. They're just kind of, it's the biggest thing that I can compare it to is like a snook out in saltwater. A snook will sit there on the bottom and wait for its prey to come right in front of its face. It's very lazy. It doesn't have to do very much to go and get it. So that's kind of what they're doing right now.
And that is the truth. Both last night and tonight, when I got to the seawall, I was casting that buzzbait. I just went down the seawall and back up, casting next, cast out, reel on the left. Once I came back up, no hits. I said, okay, they're not being active. They're being lazy. And then we both just started casting those Ozark Trail worms. And I was actually casting, letting it drop, doing like a four paddle retrieve, and then letting it drop again. And that's when, and it was like 3 feet off the wall, and I grasped it. That's where those 2-pounders were laying down. They were sitting in their recliner waiting for Uber Eats to drop off their food. They definitely weren't going out and chasing it down because once again, I X patterned all the way down and then back up the whole seawall, and then I put the Hummer bait away, got out the worm, and just started worm flipping. And I pulled in 2 of them last night. Carrie pulled in that big one tonight. She pulled in like 4 tonight. I only pulled in 1, but it's weird that way. The universe will give you fish one night and tell you to fuck off the net. So it's just one of the weird things. Now, obviously, the name of your podcast is Tackle Your Best Podcast. What's kind of your goal? What's your content format? Are you guys going to try to provide people with solutions, ideas, help out beginners, talk about different baits? What's basically the generalized format for people watching and thinking about checking out your podcast? What's your idea?
Well, the basic gist of it is, when I originally thought of the idea was, give people experience that we have. We fish from kayaks, we fish from John boats, we fish from the shore, the seawall, just like you do. Give people that kind of perspective, because there's millions of videos out there. There are, hundreds, if not thousands, of YouTubers that are out there, and even some podcasters here and there that they all fish from a bass boat.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of them
That
is out there fishing from a
bass boat.
Exactly. So, I haven't heard too many people, on YouTube that are fishing from the bank, aside from, a video here and there, like Guggen Squad will post something, or, I forget who the other one is.
Yeah, there's a cat that every once in a while he'll pull off the interstate and like fish under like overflows and stuff like that and pull some big guys out. But yeah, most of them are your competition level or bordering on competition level. Hey, I got my bass boat and we're going out in these huge lakes. And
exactly,
there are people, so you end up tending to looking for the people that bass fish professionally, or that you can trust their opinion. But then look at them; they're on a $100,000 bass boat. You're like, well, I'm not that person.
$30,000 worth of 3-screen Garmin multi-mapped 360 true time depth finders, where you can jump in the water and you'll show up on the screen swimming in front of your boat.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all.
And to me, it's all about marketing. They want to market, their sponsors and things like that. They want to say that, this hook is the best and this is the best. And people go out and they spend, hundreds of thousands, if not thousands of dollars on all this equipment, and they don't catch jack shit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's yeah, exactly. But, we go out there and we have, couple dollars here and there, 10, 20, $100 maybe. And, we can go out there and slam them. Mm-hmm. And that to me is, tackling your personal best. It's that whole, thing is kind of a double, I guess, entendre, I think is the word I'm looking for. I don't know. But it's basically, you getting out there, you tackling your personal best, and having fun is always the key point to doing that.
It's funny that you talk about people buying all this stuff and still not catching anything. I remember growing up and being a teenager. How many hours did we spend out there floating trying to catch walleye and striper?
My poor dad. We had a pontoon boat. We lived in Columbus, Ohio. get out there at midnight and spend all morning on these boats trying to catch walleye. And
How
that,
many did we catch?
put it this way, you can watch. You guys can watch, like, when I first started fishing on my YouTube channel, I think the 4th video in, I said I've caught more fish in the last month than I have in my entire life. And it's so weird. Now, obviously, we're fishing with live bait, but I was talking to a guy, my cousin today on the phone while I was fishing. I said, you know what's weird down here? I said, with the exception of when I fish with crankbait, I catch nothing but bass. Up in Ohio, it's always bluegill and catfish hitting on it.
Crappie and
Down here, if I'm fishing with with a jig or a worm, I catch nothing but bass. The only time I've caught anything other than bass is when I'm fishing with crankbaits, and I've caught 3 tilapia. Carrie caught a gar on a crankbait, which was super weird because they're super picky. Not that those things stink too. You don't want to catch a gar; those things suck. And a couple of Mayan cichlids, but yeah, it's so weird, I guess. But to be fair to our friends up north, I was talking to some guys on a kayak one day, and they had a whole damn stringer full of bass because they were eating them. Apparently, we have so many small fish down here. Up north, fish have to be above a certain length to keep them. Down here, I guess it's anything smaller than 16 inches. You can keep 5 a day. Just get them out of the water. That we have so many of them down here. Is that true?
I'm a big advocate for catch and release if they're under a certain size, mainly because if for a bass to get 6 pounds, that's beating odds. That's beating odds. I think it's once they get up to about 4 to 5 pounds, they can start eating fish almost their size. Their mouth is large enough. They can. So that's when they start jumping in size. So when you catch that big trophy bass, you're like, oh, like I'm strictly catch and release in my pond because of that. I'm like, let that go, because next year you're going to try to catch that bass, and it's going to almost 1/3 of its size grow. You're going to be catching a 9-pound bass in a year now, in that next year. So, that is beating the odds. That's like someone reaching 104 years old now. It's like, oh wow, because people catch a 3-pound bass and like, oh, this is big. I'm keeping it. I'm eating it. And that's teenager bass. And wait until it grows. It's just now growing.
Yeah, I told Carrie, I said maybe if we ever get destitute, we'll start eating canal fish. But no, we're catch and release on every one of them. I mean, hell, we feel bad if one swallows a hook and we sit there and try forever to get the damn hook out. Or in the case of my big ass bottlenose turtle that got away from me. But speaking of which, have you guys ever inadvertently brought in a damn gator?
Once.
What'd you do? Call Florida Fish and Wildlife, say, come help me get this thing off my hook? Or did you have somebody with you?
No, I rigged that thing up. I thought I was young. So I haven't caught, and I know the experience of what I was catching. But now you were saying walleye. We don't have that many fish. But when I was young, really only have, like you said, like catfish, gar, largemouth bass, tilapia, bluegill, and Mayans. So just in peacock. So, but when I'm young, I don't know what's in the water. I have most of my family up north in Michigan and Ohio, like you said. So, I know like walleye and all that. But I'm reeling in this fish, and I'm like, the pole is just bending. And I'm thinking I'm reeling a fish. I'm like telling my friends, yeah, I got a huge one. And we're on a bridge, and it's dark. And it wasn't until I got it up to the shore, miraculously, that I was able to, then take my headlamp, look down, and be like, oh, that's not a fish, that's a gator.
What did it catch on? Something with a treble hook?
Well, no, it was. I was using a gold torpedo with a little prop on the back of it. I don't know why I ended up biting it, but it was about 3 inches long. But there was no way I was able to actually reel this gator out of the water and up a bridge, so it was like little Cape Coral Canal bridges. So it wasn't like that tall, we're talking 12 feet from the water to where I was up high, but like it was a 3-pound gator or a 3-foot gator, there ain't no way I'm going to break a pole. So yeah, we just cut the line. I'm like, I don't want to dick with this.
I could imagine like fighting with that soft-shelled turtle whose shell was bigger than my head. That thing was putting up a fight. I couldn't imagine a gator, but we have one we call Wally Gator now, and he's a little tiny guy. But apparently, I can't prove this, but I think somebody's feeding the damn thing because on the video I just posted today, as we're casting out, every time it sees our bait, it swims towards us, and then we keep going further down. Not only do we not want to catch, but I'm assuming that if there's a goddamn, even though he's a tiny guy, if there's a gator there, the fish are going to be gone. So we're like trying to go down the seawall, but every time we literally, and you're familiar with the Lake Zurich when we went out kayaking on where we went down to Four Corners, Michael. So
Yep.
we're on that seawall. We end up going down the canal and we're fishing under the bridge. And I walk back down and he's sitting right there. Like, so he went from the far right wall down at the end of the seawall. He came all the way up. He was like following us, looking for us. I'm like, go away. Just go.
Holy shit.
But yeah, he was
Wow.
just following us. I seriously think somebody's feeding that damn thing, and which in itself is illegal, but it's like you're scaring a fish and I don't want to inadvertently catch you and just go away. Luckily, I never see him
Yeah.
when I'm on the water. The only time we see him is when we're on the seawall, but at least now I know he's out there.
Well, Mike and Mike's son both have a good life lesson here. It's not the big gators you have to be afraid of. It's the little ones. They're immature. They're dumb. They'll pretty much strike at anything. Going back to like me catching that 3-foot gator, it's small. They're young. We were doing a camping trip in my backyard just to make it easy for his son, and we were we're gathering rocks to make a little fireplace, and we were right on the edge of my pond. And what do you say it was? How big was it, Mike?
That one, probably 2.5, maybe.
Yeah. Well, this thing came out of the water, and gator, bulldog, stood right up on the floor, and his sandals right next to me, and came right out of the water and just stood at us, stood there and stared at us. And I was like, get back, Samuel. But those young gators, they're ballsy and they don't know any better, so those are the ones that are more likely. I mean, trust me, there's big gators that attack too, but it's those young ones that are curious, so they're going to go after your bait. They're going to swim towards you. And even the big ones, if they have the little ones that are protecting, they're going to keep an eye on you. I live closer to the Everglades, like you said, and I'm out wading and, up to my belly button. I'm 6'7", so
Jesus.
I'm up beyond my belly button and gator and infested waters with snakes everywhere. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not worried about the big ones at all.
You're braver than
We're
I
now
am.
saying Don is no longer the tallest person, at least on this show.
Hey, thank God for that. If I
dog
had
green
my
guy.
way, I'd be like 5'9", 6'1" at the most. It's a short man's world. We're just living in it. Short people don't understand the joys when you turn 18. You get that first apartment. It was built in 1972, and the shower head hits you right here because it's so damn low, and so you basically have to take a shower on your knee.
Hey, I'm only 6'2", and I get it. So-
Or like when you're from up north. Remember when they used to do the ceiling with like that stucco blob crap, and so you had like stalactites hanging off your ceiling, so you take off your shirt and drag your knuckles across it and rip all the skin off your knuckles.
I laugh because I can sympathize.
Or if you have family who
to sit down on a bus when I was sitting.
Yeah. Or if you have families who live in trailers with the low hanging ceiling fans or chandeliers in the kitchen and quack. Yep.
Too well. I'm surprised I'm not bald. I just got the mad receding line from all the ceiling fans.
I was gonna say all us, and I'm considered tall. We all got lumpy heads from hitting our heads on shit.
Question for you guys. Carrie asked me to ask you a question because she's frustrated, and it's about Fish Brain. The app Fish Brain, you go to log your fish, right? For tonight, she caught one that was 2.23 pounds. Now, the Android and the iPhone version seem a little different. On hers, when she like types in 2 pounds and goes to 2.3, it'll round it down like 1.5. But on my Android, I can't type in anything in ounces over 9. But when I put in 9 and go to the next, it rounds it up to like 1.53. Is there like a secret to how that is it? Are we doing something wrong? Is it calculating it weird? Why is it like
I think it's more in their programming. There's probably something going on with their app or something like that, and they just haven't realized it yet to put out an update to fix that kind of a bug. Because I've posted on there a couple of times, and I've never had that issue before, so it must be something new.
Yeah, like last night, I literally had to go in there and put in 1.5, and then when I added it, it rounded up like 1.93. But if I put in I can't type any numbers higher than 9. And on hers, when she put in 2.3, it would change it to 2.15. But
Probably glitching with the keep, because you only have 1 through 9 on your keyboard, so it's probably glitching with that.
It could be. Well, we're doing it from the phone, so now we just have to take a picture of the damn scale and just post it. So I just post a picture of the fish with the picture of the scale.
That makes it more to a point where people actually believe you.
Yeah.
I was just like, believable. If you don't have a picture and a scale, it's not true.
I always forget to measure the length of the damn things. It's built in my scale. I just never think about doing it because I'm more concerned about how long the fish has been out of the water. And so I just want the weight, the picture, be gone with you.
Did I
think
hear
the
you
bass,
say
you
a
don't really
word? Don, I've seen a couple of your videos, and I've seen you release, some of the fish, and I could swear you're yelling something when you throw them back in.
No, I haven't yelled yeet. I've yelled yeet a few times when I've casted my Guggen out there, but I haven't yelled yeet when I throw my fish in there. The only time I throw the fish in, like in the kayak, I'll set them down and do the whole thing. But when you're 6'2" and you're standing on top of a 6-foot seawall and the water's down, it's like, well, I can't exactly climb down the sea. Oh, real quick, we're running out of time, but just remind me. So sadly, I do have to throw them off the seawall. Either that or climb down the 6 foot and then let them in nicely. So 2 videos ago, and we're talking about this, I cast out my Guggen bait, got a bird's nest. My braid snaps, the damn thing flies. Thought I lost it. It was the one that I bought to replace the one that I lost from Carrie's. And it's a $12 damn bait, which is the most I ever spent for a bait. But luckily, the line broke. 8 feet of line was floating in the water, yada yada. Fast forward tonight, I have it on my fluorocarbon, and I'm fishing. And it's not a tangled bird's nest, but it's loose on the freaking spool, and I don't realize until it's in the water. And I'm like, well, I'll just reel it in, kind of tighten it up, and then I'll just do a nice long cast, get all that shit out there, and get a nice clean rolling. I'm reeling in the fluorocarbon, and the damn line breaks, and I'm watching going do. And I'm like racing up my pole. It falls in the water. I actually jump down the seawall because here it is, the same damn $12 bait. And I step one wet shoe, and I was able to grab the line and pull it in. But I've almost lost this damn $12 bait twice now.
It sounds like you're not meant to have that bait.
I'm not.
No, not
I'm
at
not.
all.
But the fact that it's the first bait that I've actually caught a fish on, other than a crankbait and a worm. Like prior to that, I didn't consider myself a bass fisherman because you always see them catch them on swim baits with tails and all that. And I'm only catching them on worms and crankbaits. It wasn't until I caught the one on that same seawall on that Hummer bait that I felt like a real bass fisherman now. But I want to thank Michael and Ron for joining us. They are they're not only new to the family, but they are the first new to the Digital 410 Network, first podcast that are not hosted by yours truly. So we're super excited about that. We're kind of building the company here. We're shooting to have their podcast we already have it in the can. We've got to upload it. It'll be out on all the apps. First of the month, hands down. The website will be updated as we go. So when you guys go, and we'll post a link to it. As of right now, it's a subdomain of Digital 410. But if you guys do have a domain name, we can always point to it. We'll worry about that later. But be sure to check that out, and we will announce it here on this show and obviously post it on our Facebook when that podcast is available, and that is the Tackle Your Best podcast with Mike and Ron. Mike, Ron, thank you guys so much. For those of you hanging out at home, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back because once again, we're on the free version of Zoom. And if you guys want to stop that, which was very embarrassing on the What's the Scuttlebutt podcast last night. Have either one of you seen HBO's The Pacific?
No.
It's the PTO version of Band of Brothers, right? It's all true.
All right.
The one of the lead characters' names is Eugene Sledge. He's like one of the main authors to tell about the war in the Pacific. And if you're in World War II and the PTO, he's like, everybody knows who he is because his book was that detailed and great. I had his son on my podcast last night. He's showing us his dad's artifacts and had to do the same thing. Hey, it's 40 minutes is up. We got to take a break. But if you guys want to help us put that to an end, head over to d-410.com or to the what'sinyourheadpodcast.com. Sign up for Patreon. It's only $1 a month, and that'll help us to support the channel, support the cause, and all that good stuff. And please, while you're there, click on the YouTube link. We're working on 1,000. We're getting ready to scrape into the 500 marker. And for those of you who are a subscriber and fan, you know that once we get to 500, I'm going to put out a video. And everybody who comments on the video, who has subscribed to our channel, their name is going to go into a bucket. We're going to pull out a series of them, get down to the final 2, and then Carrie and I are going to have a fish off. And whoever catches the first fish, that person who's being represented by either me or Carrie will win a Cast King Spartacus 2 bait caster that we will send to you ordered directly from Amazon. We're not going to send you some used one. So we're going to give away a bait caster when we get to 500 subscribers. So head over to Digital 410 on YouTube, subscribe. We're getting close. We need like 42 more people, and help us get to 500. So then maybe one day we can get to 1,000. But Michael, Ron, thank you guys so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I will talk to you guys here in a day or two, and we will get your podcast up for the masses. Thank you guys. Gordon, hold tight.
Will do. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
And we are back in all quick time. See that? It was super fast. It wasn't painful at all. We're back. Gordon, how are you doing, my friend? My brother. Oh, you there? Hello? Oh, for some reason we lost him. Oh, It's saying my speakers are not working on the Zoom app. So, guys, hold tight. I don't know if you guys can hear me. We're going to kill this and try again. We will be back momentarily. I don't know what's up with